So, I've gotten a few questions about what to do with specific situations on getting your reptile or monitor out of the cage. And I'd like to use Echo to demonstrate this. First off, cage setup. Now, you'll see I do have a dirt cage, but most of this dirt is kind of hard packed. Yes, he can dig in it and dig down into it, but he really doesn't, because I've provided him several natural tight hiding spaces of different sizes. See here, this rock, he can get underneath it from behind. He has a burrow under there he can get into. He can also hide on the other side of this log on the shelf where he feels safe and unseen, because from the front of the cage that's what you see. He also has underneath his basking spot, okay, he's not there. Underneath his basking spot, he can get up on this shelf. Like my hand fits up there. He gets up there all the time. There's his hot height. And because of this log in the front, he feels completely covered. You can't see that spot under the basking spot from outside of the cage. Also from the front of the cage, he has a kind of open spot behind the basking rock where he sets. And in the cooler part of the cage at the bottom, he has this hide that he can get behind, underneath, and right now he's inside of. So providing several natural hiding places, he can get behind the water dish, or even digging underneath your water dish and letting them hide under there, that are easier for you to get to, will help when you're hand taming your animal at first. Also helps with keeping an eye on them. You know, if you haven't seen them in a few days, you can go through the hiding places and figure out if everything's okay. Now, as far as an approach, when they're burrowed and buried, they're going to be hard to approach. You're going to have to dig for them, and that's going to start a prey response right from the beginning. So you're going to hope and pray they like your natural hides more than digging. If you have to dig for them, I would avoid handling at that point and try to use a method like tap training, target training, or my glove training technique to coax them out of hiding with food. You do also want to handle a little more often than you feed when you first get your animal, to prevent that association with you opening the cage and them getting fed. But when you're getting them out of a hide, again, move very slow. Be very calm. And because you've taken them out of the hide, they're going to be a little more flighty. So you don't want to initially reach for them. You want to move slow and just get a little close and give them a second to calm down. And once he starts flicking his tongue and investigating the situation, instead of just pulling that frozen I'm too big to eat body stance, there's a tongue flick. He's starting to investigate why my fingers are there. Move in a little closer. And now you're going for basically the same approach I showed in my other video. Just gently coaxing them up. Sometimes you can make a more positive experience by getting them out of their hide and placing them in the open and letting them bask. You see, he didn't just run right away. And now you go with your initial approach. Now, one of my training methods, I never go after him when he's directly in his basking spot. Number one, he's really warm and has way too much energy to be receptive in any way. Number two, that becomes a safe place when they're older. If you don't mess with them or pick them up or take them off of their basking spot, which is something I've also talked about when I do videos with Blue, then your reptile becomes not only a better display animal, but more comfortable out in the open. This way you can make a stand or perch or outside of the cage area with a light hanging over it, and they will feel safe there. But now that he's calmed down about the situation, he's still puffed up about the camera. He doesn't like the camera, but he's flicking his tongue. He's showing a little bit different body language. He'll be a little more receptive. I might get a tail flick here because he gaped his mouth a little. Curling his tail, puffing his throat. That's all defensive displays to try not to get eaten. And as long as you're gentle and not restrictive, he doesn't feel as threatened. A predator will move fast. A predator will restrain them. A predator will grip them and try to pull on them. You don't want to act like a predator when you're hand taming them. You want to be as slow moving and calm as possible.